Hey, folks, this is Lindsay Huddleston with Sports Psychology Solutions back in the building. Another SPS Mental Toughness Zoom class, and I'm joined with some great individuals helping this class get off the ground. First and foremost, I want to thank Coach Orlando Watkins. We call him Houston, like he's our astronaut watching us when we're out here in space doing our thing. We got Malachi Irvin, who's representing Birmingham Brother Rice, and my great co-host tonight and great young man I'm happy to be working with as the SPS intern this semester is Mr. Terry McCord Jr. And with no further ado, Terry's going to take us away and talk about some wonderful topics ranging from the NBA Game 7 and the mental toughness that needs to take place, as well as breaking news. MHSAA, that's the Michigan High School Athletic Association, has just announced there will be fall sports, including a 6-week football schedule. So with no further ado, Terry, what's going on out here?
So I want to save the breaking news a little later, not kind of spoil the news a little bit. So first, just the NBA, a ton of Game 7's being passed. We had the Rockets and Thunder last night. We had the Jazz and the Nuggets. And so one of the things I wanted to bring up tonight was the mental fatigue and the mental toughness it takes to kind of move from a 7-game series. Most people don't get to the 7 games, but we've seen so many teams reach that 7-game series, that game 7, that winner go home and translate so quick to the next series. And so I think it's really key, that we kind of elaborate and kind of, go into what it's like to go from, being all or nothing one game and then quickly, on to the next thing. Like, how the Rockets they beat the Thunder 7 games. Now they're on the Lakers. So I just wanted to talk about how to be flexible with your being locked in on one team, on one game plan, and quickly switching over to another.
Yeah, you're right. When you talk about the playoffs, I always think about Doc Rivers. And even though that year he made this comment, Boston lost to L.A., but he talked about, packing more than one suit because the goal was going to be you're going to win these games and get on the road. Now, of course, with the bubble, they're stationary, so that's not happening. And you alluded to that offline with the fact that they don't even get the normal 2-day rest that they would have to fly from one location to the other. But I do want to point this out. The phenomenon we've been seeing as of recently, the past few seasons, first-round Game 7s, I'll take you back to the Boston Celtics and the Chicago Bulls and that bitter rivalry they had going on for a while with Joakim Noah, Paul Pierce. I mean, these guys were going at it. And you were having 7-game first-round series, which we never saw. You only saw the 7-game series later. But I would attribute that, Terry, to a lot of younger players being in the league. And, it's just not the same kind of basketball where you would just see a dominant team take over, but a team that'll be up one moment and come down. And you kind of alluded to that with all that we saw. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. I think it's reflective of this youthful NBA. I would go as far as to argue it may have an impact on a lot of these guys not having the emotional and mental capacity to stay locked in long enough to hit 2, 3, 4 games and sweep. I mean, you'll see a sweep like that or somewhat of a sweep with the Lakers sweeping Portland, but a lot of that had to do with Dame Lillard and what he was on. But the fact remains this, man. I think from a mental toughness standpoint, this NBA bubble is, one, providing some of the best basketball we've seen in a long time now that we're underway. But secondly, Terry, it also is showing us that things like not having a crowd there, not being able to travel, I would go as far as to say the players and teams not even having to dress up. If you notice, they have very sport casual, wardrobe, which I would love to rock. I would love to rock some of their gear they're rocking with the polos and all that. But I think all those go into this thing where what you have is players who have a slight edge, who have a different motivation, are able to overcome. Perfect example. Now, although this series is just, getting underway, the Miami-Milwaukee series. Everyone was kind of putting all these praises on Giannis, but Jimmy Butler's been laying in the cut like, okay, now a 2-game lead is huge, but we all know that doesn't end everything. But I think that's an example of it. So I don't know, Malachi, have you been following these NBA games?
Yeah.
What's your take on a lot of these recent Game 7s? What does that make you think about?
For Game 7, I was mostly focusing on the Utah versus Denver game. and how Donovan Mitchell, his interview, he was like real emotional because one of my coaches, they said you can practice the move so many times. When it comes to game time, clutch time, that move might not work. And I think that's what happened with Donovan Mitchell. He practiced that move so many times, and when it came to clutch time, it didn't work on him.
Well, it's all about contingency plans. You make an excellent point, and I'll get back to you, Terry, to keep us going. But, you know, you can have an expectation, or as Mike Tyson, the great philosopher, says, everybody got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And then it's like, oh, what do I do? And that's when instinct has to take over. That's when you have to have something else in your bag. But nowadays, the way these guys are watching film, it's real easy for your classic go-to move to get shut down based on the defenders making adjustments. And you got to have something else. Terry, what else you got?
Right, and just to go off of that, I think a lot of that has to do with the series, you know, that we're watching with the Bucks and Heat. I think we see Giannis is kind of get to a point where people are starting to understand how to guard, you know, the freak, you know, the almost 7-footer, crazy wingspan, and just seeing him be able to just glide through the lane. But we're seeing a great coaching staff the Heat have, and Jimmy Butler, and wonderful guys that are buying into the system and, you know, wanting to play defense on Giannis. So I think Giannis is in that point, like Malachi said, you know, he's doing that same Euro, you know, and doing all these same moves, forcing him to shoot now, and he's not able to do and be as efficient as he was. And so I think that's where, like, mental toughness has to come in. Like, what do I do next? You know, what do I need to do to still be efficient in these times? They're down 0-2. So, I mean, now it's do or die. Once you go down 0-3, I mean, it's about dang near impossible to win 4 straight against a tough team like that. So I think the Bucks just got to buy into the system, do what they can do to get Giannis freed up. But a lot of it is Giannis getting over that mental hump of being, you know, that guy. And a lot of people are calling him Pippen, but I mean, Giannis can be that dude. He just needs to get over that mental hump, and figure out what he needs to do to take his game to the next level, because this is big time money right now. It's playoffs.
No, you're right. And I think all the time that we've been seeing this great development with Giannis, no doubt. But, you know, you say what you want to say. I don't think his jump shot has proven to be confident enough in these type of playoff type situations. And again, we've all said it, man, this bubble is a different kind of beast. Those you think, or as they say in biblical terms, the first should be last and the last should be first. So when you think everybody who got it going on shouldn't have any issues, those are the people who are most vulnerable, because it's not the same playoff that they know. Again, we hear the music piped in. We hear the noise. We hear the clapping. We hear all those sound effects. But that's for the people at home. There's nobody there. And these guys, so you have to put yourself in the mindset. Now, the one thing the Lakers did early on in the preseason or those warm-up games is that they had so much energy on their bench. They would come out as if the crowd was there. And I think that was a great approach to take. And I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron James was the architect, because he's even talked about the difficulty of playing without fans. Now, this is coming from the person who probably every person coming to the gymnasium or coming to the arena is coming to see him. And if they're not, they coming to hate on him. So it's an invitation for him in some way or form. So I think that's very unique. But I think the reality is that just because something was one way, whether it's in sports, whether it's in life, doesn't mean it's going to always be like that. So it really takes you to be great at your craft, to be well-versed in what you're doing, whether it's in sport, whether it's your job. For example, Coach Watkins is the IT guru, but it takes him to be really into things that when something comes up and goes wrong, he has that skill set. And I think what happens, Terry, and as well as to Malachi, I think so many people get comfortable, and Malachi, you touched on it, by saying, I'm going to work on this same shot. Giannis had been using that same move, and even though he had been successful throughout the regular season, man, you got time with nothing but that bubble and watching film and guys just focusing on one thing, they stopped that. So I think that was a great observation on both you part. But the question comes, how do you prepare yourself to be mentally tough when those situations arise?
Right. And just to go off of what you said, we moved into our next topic is about, you know, the MHSA just released that they're allowing fall sports to happen. And that big fall sport is what everyone's been looking for, is high school football. And so that's being released. People are excited. I know I got my boys in the city still talking, you know, already talking about practice and rivalries and all that. So times are, you know, feeling pretty good right now. Everyone's really happy about that being released. But once again, it's like, how long will this be? You know, is it a chance of it being shut down, whether we're in week 2 or whether we're in week 4, whether we don't even, what if we don't even start up? So I think it's really puts athletes in a situation where, they're hoping for the best, but prepare for the worst. So it puts them in a tough position.
I think that's a great approach to take. That's a great mindset, and coaches should pass that on. And Terry, you've been around me enough. I'm a fun guy. I'm not a wet blanket. I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but I often say I'm not a dream killer. I'm a dream clarifier. Now, everyone's about to get excited about getting ready for high school football. And I was on a call with MHSA Executive Director Mark Ewell, and we talked about recruiting and how you kind of work through the recruiting process post-COVID-19 or through this COVID-19 global pandemic. But the real question is, what are the telltale signs that it's not working? Meaning, what are the telltale signs that there are some more health risks? What are the telltale signs that too many people getting together and having this back and forth is leading to this virus being transmitted? And if that is the case, and if it's stated that, hey, this is not working, the mental preparation you have to be able to shut down again is going to be very important, because, to be honest, this can continue to be stop and go. And I know that'll make people mad. People may not want to hear it. I mean, we even talked about putting a poll question out there that we'll probably do at another time. But the reality is that everybody wants to play, but is it really time to play is a question.
Right. It's a reality check that every athlete needs right now, just being able to stay focused, but, not be too surprised or, not hurt about things being canceled. I think the best advice I would give right now is just, worry about what's going on in the moment, but also, not getting, like I said, not getting too hopeful to the point where that's all you're relying on. You know what I mean? So I think it's really key that athletes, go 100%. I'm not saying take off the gas pedal. Always go 100% what you're doing, but still having the same mindset that this something right now is bigger than sports right now. It's a global pandemic, and it's affecting the United States really bad. And Michigan, is one of the worst states. So still being locked in, but then still realizing that, these are bigger factors that we can't control. So, just control what you can control. You're ready for your season, have fun with your boys, but also, don't take it for granted. Go out. If you get a chance to play, hey, go play 100%, go play your best, don't take those memories for granted, but also realize, that it's something bigger that's going on.
So normally your last regular season, Terry, you play 9 games and then you go to the playoffs?
9 games, yep. 9 games, you got to win 6.
Isn't too bad. 9 games go like this anyway, so 6 is going to be last. So, maybe it can be enough time that we can hold our breath, and in that month and a half, we'll be able to move through and make things happen. But I just really work. Malachi, tell me what you think. You've always brought some really good ideas and thoughts to this. You're a little bit younger than Terry. But how do you feel about the idea that fall sports can start up and high school football will be happening pretty soon?
This is my first time hearing anything about fall sports starting back up.
Particularly volleyball and swimming, along with football.
Yeah, when I first heard you guys said, I thought you were talking about basketball, but you cleared it up and said it was football. Then that's when I had asked my mom, what did she think about it? And she was like, oh yeah, football starting back up and not basketball. So I was kind of upset about that.
That's okay. Well, here's the thing, Terry, you kind of touched on it, man, as far as mindset. Any advice to anyone's listening? Again, I want to thank Coach Orlando Watkins for his great outreach. We've been able to get outreach to some 2,500 people just being familiar with what we're talking about. So for those parents, those coaches, those players out there, Michigan is getting ready to start, but stay present in the moment. Don't allow yourselves to get too far gone beyond this present moment, because we don't know what can happen. I'm not a negative Nanny. I don't say I'm wishing for something negative, but I'm saying prepare yourself for a potential stop and go type situation. And I think when it's all said and done, Terry, if we're fortunate enough to have a complete 6-game season, it will be the teams that adopt that mindset collectively will have a better chance of being successful, because they're saying, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to get down right there, compared to saying, oh, this got to happen. If it doesn't happen, what I'm going to do? And the last thing I would say, Terry, is that, deliver me from that person who just wants to go, just throw their hands up, always kind of complaining and not just being fluid with this situation. And most people aren't able to be fluid.
Right. And just to add on to that, I think a big deal breaker with athletes right now are those who are still ready to play, that have been working out right now and still being like in shape and ready for their season, and those that kind of took it as like a day, like a time off, and this is really going to separate, the boys and the men. I see like East Lansing, my guys at Lansing Eastern and Everett and all the Lansing schools, they've been working out still. And I really pride and shout out to them for still working and still being, optimistic about these times. And they were upset, but they also understood, that this time is COVID-19 is a lot bigger than sports, but a lot of their work is going to pay off. And I think it's really key that they're still working. And it's also, hopefully that work translates to the field, because, it's really going to separate those athletes that took this time off.
No, you make an excellent point, Terry. Whether it's the program continuing to work hard, but more importantly, it's what you do as an individual athlete after practice is done. I think
Right.
that's going to be the key separator for a lot of people, because a lot of people are able to skate and blend because their program is being productive. So they show up to practice, do the bare minimum, and get through it. That's good. But it's about that person who shows up to practice early, stays later, and then works on their individual game. And a lot of people, man, are going to have some breakout moments. And we saw it with the NBA, with the Jamal Murrays of the world, the other individuals who was just having these breakout games, the Dame Lillard experience that we all saw, and even Chris Paul, even though he was unsuccessful in that final game 7, he was leaving it all out there. So I say that to say, don't sleep on the people you haven't been paying. Well, the people you haven't been paying attention to, you better watch out for. For those who stay motivated, they're going to get their opportunity. And I think we all going to see that.
That's true. Everyone, like, no one expected Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, and all them to get 50-point games in series, the whole series, averaging like 30-some points the series. And so I think we're going to see those outbreaks of players, who we didn't really expect, but found that drive and that motivation. That's what you need, especially during COVID. Athletes had a lot of excuses to quit, give up, and worry about next year if they're a junior or sophomore, but seniors to quit, move on. And now, I feel like it's a blessing, that they're able to at least give it a shot and play. And those that kept driving and staying focused and were driven, they're going to get some outbreaks, some good games. So.
Right. What I'm thinking about, I just want to put this resource out here. My most recent book, the SPS Edge, A Guide to Mental Toughness in Sports and Life Post-COVID-19. So if you're someone who's able to catch this broadcast, you think that might be a good thing, I think it's a great read for our student athletes to be able to get some resource. And I'm getting Terry's sign off on it. He's the owner of the book. I think it's important. And when I talk to my sports psychology clients all the time, all throughout the country, I talk to them about, being able to have a customized program that works for you. When you're doing your training or when you're doing something as a young athlete, you may have your trainer help you. Oh, I want to get my arms bigger. I want to get my legs bigger. But from a mental toughness standpoint, you really need to work on customizing something that's going to work for you. Terry, we've had those conversations. Malachi, you've been on the call. So I think it's important with the topics you brought up today that these young athletes prepare themselves for some potential stop and go. And that is not to be a negative reflection on them. It's just the way of the world we're living in. And the people who are better equipped to adapt, Terry, people who are better equipped to make quick change, Malachi, are going to be the ones to be successful. So don't go into this season thinking it has to be like last season was going to be or what you were hoping or praying for it to be. You need to go in this season saying, what do I know about COVID-19? It moves fast, things change, so I have to be prepared. And I think that attitude will allow people to find success through this sports season.
It's going to, for real, and it's really gonna. Success is really what what you make out of it, And a lot of times, like their season may not go through, and a lot of people may take that as an initial fail, like a failure season, And I think whatever you take out of these moments, is gonna whatever you make out of this, can really help what you determine is successful. Whether it's doing something with football, learning a new skill, or taking the time to work on your body, but also your mental game. I think, just figure out what works for you, like you said, and doing what it takes, to better yourself every day, not just on the field, but off the field, because, like, you're going to be off the field a lot more than you're going to be on the field. So why not take and do what you need to do to better yourself and get better every day?
It's a good point because although we've been waiting for this season is going to be quick, man. It's about 6 weeks. I remember 9 weeks me being embedded with football teams and how quick that goes. So 6, And then it's like, now what? And you got to see about making, especially as a senior, can you make your 6 weeks memorable? You know, Malachi, tell me, what are you thinking about as a young athlete getting ready to go into your sport, basketball, pretty soon in this COVID-19 world?
I don't really think basketball is going to start back up because, well, I can't tell now. We got to see with this football thing, like how it plans out with this, and then we can see like what we need to work on or what goals we need to reach to get basketball to start back up.
You know, it's funny you say that because that's a very practical statement. You're like, I don't know if it's going to start on time. I can agree with that. But then you have Big Ten Hall of Fame coach Tom Izzo, who's been quoted frequently saying basketball is going to start on time. He believes at 100%. 100%. Now, that's one man talking. And despite his love and passion to play, it doesn't equate to just because he said it means it's going to happen. But I find it interesting, Malachi, that the three of us or the four of us can sit here and kind of like, yeah, it might be a tough way to go. But people who are in a very influential role in the sport are out here promoting. So maybe those are the talking points they have out there, that we're going to just say we're going to start no matter what and go from there. But I have to let people know, just because you speak on something really highly or just because you say it's going to happen doesn't mean it's in the cards to happen.
That is true. And I think it's hard to be like 100% in something right now.
Like, I feel you. I want to play. But I'm like, so, and then, you know, also to that point, I think he was saying, well, we can look at doing the bubble. I'm like, yeah, but the NBA spent $150 million for that bubble. They had resources. And it's not like all the NCAA teams are coming to play at one place. It's just a lot that goes with that. And I think when you get to that collegiate level, there's so many disparities in budgets. You know, you talk about schools like Michigan talk about their budget being negatively impacted already, and this is one of the most wealthiest athletic programs. So I'll say all that to say, I think the word of the day before we get out of here is to really be able to stay fluid. When I say fluid, be able to flow like water, be able to be okay with stopping and going and not let that really impact you, and just really stay present in the moment. Because I tell you what, I don't know what's going to happen a week from now in my life or a month from now, although I have wishes and hopes. But I do know right now, Terry, in this moment as we speak, I'm in control of the situation as best as possible, and I'm winning. And if I can just embrace this moment and go moment by moment, I'll be fine. But I think what happens is we start to project out too far, try to bring too many other factors into play, and we start to bring things into play that don't necessarily rely on us, but rely on other factors. Then we lose ourselves, and you get to that anxiety, and you get, out beyond yourself compared to just staying focused in the moment. As of right now, we know college and high school football is going to start relatively soon. We'll prepare for that, but we also prepare if it doesn't.
I love that that quote, that little Bruce Lee quote, "Be like water, my friend." I love that. That's a great explanation of great quote to use right now. I think we do have to be
difficult
like
for
you
young
said,
people to be like water. I mean, it does. So you think it's difficult, Terry, for young people to embrace that quote and really try to be like water?
I don't think so. I mean, I know personally for me, I know that I adapt to things really well, different situations. Just by going off of my college decision, I was able to go from looking at Western, having to go to MSU, and then picking the better route to go to LCC, then going to MSU. So I think if you push your mind, man, to go and adapt to new ideas and really trusting and looking at new ideas and seeing a better fit for you, and if you push yourself to do it, I think you'll find the best opportunity for you. Everything happens for a reason. I believe that I'm here for a reason, and putting this moment, being here with you, going to LCC, everything happens for a reason. Whether it's canceling the season and you're not able to finish, everything happens for a reason. You got to figure out what that reason is. It's your job to figure that out. God put it in place right there. Figure out weather through the storm. Figure out what is there for you. And so I feel like any person could find, through that diamond in the rough, like what's there for them, but you got to do some digging for it, though.
Yeah, you're right. And I like what you said about pushing yourself. And I think by nature, whether it's technology, we all want to go the easy route. We want to go the path of least resistance. But when you push yourself, you also prepare yourself. And when you're prepared, you can find success. So push, preparedness, and success. And we all want that. I won't keep you guys too much. You guys have been a great group of what you shared. I think we've been able to put a lot out there to help people who are getting ready to make this transition. I think this is a very relevant discussion, especially announcing now we are getting into football, and now these guys' eyes are going to get big. Like, oh, I got to get ready, you know. And if I haven't been doing what I'm supposed to have been doing, it might be tough. So, Terry, you have any last things for us before we wrap up?
I think just going off of what I just said, you know, look to adapt. You know, things are going too well for you. Like I'm starting college. A lot of people my age are starting that new journey. You know, find whatever you can do to continue to better yourself every day. Push through school. If it's an assignment that I just got done that's tough, weather through that storm and on to the next thing. Figure it out. Keep going. Put your all in, 100%. And do what you can do, because I mean that's all you can do right now. Make the most of what you got. You're here for a reason. Now let's go. Let's do it.
I love it. I love it. Malachi, you got anything else you want to share with me before you go?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, again, as always, I want to thank Coach Orlando Watkins representing the Northwestern Stags, putting it together. The coach. You the coach, Coach. You the coach. Oh, my bad. Want to appreciate all that you do to keep us out here and connected. TJ, Terry, you're doing a great job. And again, we'll let this message go and get out there and hopefully it can be a resource to others. So this is Lindsey Huddleston with Sports Psychology Solutions, another mental toughness Zoom class, and we hope we continue to be a resource. Follow us on social media at the SPS Edge. You can follow Terry McCord Jr. on his Facebook, and also Coach Orlando Watkins, who puts a lot of stuff out on the Michigan AAU Facebook platform, so you'll be able to catch more and share more. So with that, thank you guys, and we'll see you all next week.